So imagine someone who has memorized every single rule of tennis.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
I mean, they've read all the dense historical biographies of the champions. They know the exact microscopic physics of a topspin.
Right, they're an absolute theoretical expert.
Exactly. They can calculate the trajectory of the ball, factoring in wind resistance and humidity and all that. They've watched every Wimbledon match since 1995.
Just analyzing the footwork frame by frame.
Yeah, pausing and rewinding. So on paper, they are a theoretical tennis genius. But they have never, not once in their entire life, actually picked up a tennis racket.
Oh, man. That is a recipe for disaster.
Right. If you put them on center court, hand them a racket, and just serve a ball at them at 90 miles an hour, what's going to happen?
I mean, they're going to miss the ball entirely. Or honestly, they're probably just going to get hit right in the chest by it.
Completely.
Because knowing the abstract theory of a swing does not mean your physical muscles have any clue how to actually execute that swing.
Yeah, there's a total disconnect.
Like, the brain might know exactly where the ball is going, but the arm, the wrist, the shoulders, they're completely uncalibrated.
It's paralyzing. Just a total disconnect between cognitive knowledge and physical capability. And, well, here is where it gets really interesting for our deep dive today.
Let's hear it.
This exact scenario is the frustrating reality for literally millions of people when they try to learn a new language, particularly English.
Oh, absolutely. I see this all the time.
They study grammar textbooks until the pages fall out.
Oh.
They memorize these massive, just endless vocabulary lists.
And they watch hundreds of hours of movies with the subtitles on it. Right?
Yes. Convincing themselves they're absorbing it. But then when they actually have to order a simple coffee or someone asks them a question in a meeting,
They freeze. They absolutely freeze.
the words just will not come out of their mouth.
It's the linguistic equivalent of getting hit by that 90-mile-an-hour tennis serve. The theoretical knowledge is there, sure.
But the physical part is just missing.
Right. The physical apparatus, like the mouth, the tongue, the vocal cords, they haven't been trained to react in real time.
And that is exactly the disconnect we are going to fix today. So, welcome to the show. Today, we're stepping off the sidelines and, well, onto the court.
I love that. We are getting into the game.
We're looking at this incredible set of sources that outline the raw neuroscience and the physical mechanics of a technique called shadowing.
And our mission today isn't just to talk about it theoretically.
No, definitely not. We aren't just giving you a lecture. The source material gives us 330 essential daily life English sentences.
And they're systematically broken down into 3 difficulty tiers, which is super helpful.
Really helpful. So today, we're going to unpack the neurological why behind this shadowing technique. We'll dissect the hidden meanings of these everyday phrases.
And because we are taking this energetic coach mentality very seriously today, we are going to guide you, the listener, through an interactive, real-time practice session.
Yes, we are actively practicing today. What's fascinating here is the core premise of our source material.
Which is that speaking English, or any language really, is not primarily an academic subject.
Right. It's a motor skill.
Exactly.
Right.
It's a highly coordinated physical action. So today's deep dive is entirely about transforming your passive understanding into active, confident speaking.
We're explicitly training your mouth, your brain, and your vocal cords. So let's unpack this first principle.
Sounds good. Where do we start?
Before we even look at the actual sentences, we really need to understand the how and the why of the mechanics. The technique is called shadowing.
Right.
For anyone who hasn't encountered this term in language learning before, what exactly are we talking about here?
So at its core, shadowing is an immersive, real-time repetition technique. You listen to a native speaker say a sentence, and you immediately repeat that exact sentence out loud.
You're acting as their vocal shadow.
Exactly, yeah. You are mimicking their pronunciation, their rhythm, their intonation, their speed as closely as humanly possible.
Almost simultaneously, right.
Or just a split second behind them, yes.
But why is this so much more effective than, say, just listening to an audiobook or having a YouTube video playing in the background?
That's a great question, because a lot of people fall into the trap of what the source calls passive listening.
Oh, I'm so guilty of this. Like having a podcast playing while I wash the dishes and thinking, oh, I'm bathing my brain in the language.
Right, you feel like you're absorbing it through osmosis or something.
Exactly. But our source explicitly warns against this. Why does passive listening fail us so badly?
Well, it fails for a very specific neurological reason. When you passively listen, you are primarily engaging Wernicke's area in your brain.
Okay, Wernicke's area, which does what?
That's the part responsible for the comprehension of speech. So you're understanding the meaning? Sure. You get what they're saying.
But I'm not learning to speak it.
No, because you are barely touching Broca's area, which is the part that handles speech production. You are not building the neural pathways required to actually move your mouth.
Ah, got it.
And this is where the motor memory loop comes into play. If we connect this to the bigger picture of neuroscience, speaking requires insanely complex coordination.
Oh, yeah, I read it's like over 100 muscles.
Exactly. Across your lips, your tongue, your jaw, your vocal cords, your diaphragm.
It's literally a physical workout.
It absolutely is a workout. And when you practice shadowing, when you repeat the sentence out loud, you force your brain to process all of that at once.
So listening, comprehension, pronunciation, rhythm, meaning all simultaneously.
Yes. It creates this really powerful closed-circuit feedback loop. You speak aloud, your ears hear your own voice, your brain instantly compares your voice to the native speaker's voice.
And then you self-correct in real time.
Exactly, which builds confidence and leads to more fluent speech. Every time you do this, you are myelinating the neural pathways that connect your thought to your physical speech organs.
Okay, wait, myelinating. I love that word, but let's break it down for a second. What exactly is happening in my brain when I am myelinating a pathway?
So think of the neurons in your brain like electrical wires. When you learn a new physical skill, like hitting that tennis ball or pronouncing a tricky English sound, a tiny electrical signal travels down that wire.
Okay, makes sense.
At first, the signal is slow and clunky. It kind of leaks out. But as you repeat the physical action, your brain wraps that specific wire in a fatty white substance called myelin.
So it's essentially biological electrical insulation.
That is a perfect way to describe it.
Yeah.
The more you repeat the action, the thicker the myelin sheath gets. And the thicker the myelin, the faster and more effortlessly the electrical signal travels.
Wow. And that is what we call muscle memory.
Exactly.
That's incredible. So you're physically coding the wires in your brain to make the signal travel faster, upgrading from like dial-up to fiber optics.
Basically, yeah.
Now, speaking of repetition, I do want to push back on something in the source material here.
Okay, what's that?
The source has a very specific instruction for this practice, which is the repeat twice rule. It says for every single sentence, you need to say it out loud 2 times.
Right, just twice.
But if we're trying to build this thick myelin insulation, why stop at 2? If I want a killer tennis serve, I don't practice it twice. I practice it 50 times a day.
It's a really fair question. And it comes down to cognitive load and the specific goals of the 2 passes.
Okay, tell me more.
Yes, if you were only learning one single sentence, repeating it 50 times would be great. But you are working through a massive list of 330 sentences.
Right, that would take forever.
If you repeated each one 50 times, your brain would experience severe cognitive fatigue. The learning would actually degrade, and you just quit out of sheer boredom.
Yeah, I definitely quit.
So the source's 2-pass method is highly optimized for efficiency. The first pass, the first time you say the sentence, is entirely about accuracy.
So just getting the words right.
Exactly. Your brain is scrambling just to get the phonetics out. You're thinking, wait, was my tongue supposed to touch my teeth on that TH sound? Your mouth is awkwardly forming the shapes.
It's like the rough draft. You're just trying not to trip over the furniture.
That's a great analogy. The first repetition gets the words in the right order and the gross motor movements down. But the second repetition is where the magic happens.
Because your brain already knows the words now.
Exactly. It doesn't have to spend processing power on vocabulary or grammar anymore. Now it can focus entirely on fluency.
Ah, so matching the speed and the musicality.
Right. The stress, the rhythm of the native speaker. That dual pass approach, accuracy first, then fluency, accelerates comprehension without burning you out.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Targeted, high-quality repetitions rather than just mindless volume.
Exactly.
But I have to ask the question that I know you are thinking right now if you're listening to us. Isn't it incredibly embarrassing to just sit in a room by yourself and talk out loud?
Oh, it feels incredibly awkward at first. Totally.
Can't I just whisper the sentences? Or like, say I'm on a crowded subway, can't I just mouth the words silently?
You really have to embrace that friction, unfortunately. The source material is absolutely adamant on this point. Shadowing is practically useless if done silently.
Wait, really? Useless?
Pretty much. If you only whisper or mouth the words, you are fundamentally altering the physics of your speech.
How so?
Well, whispering does not engage the vocal cords. Your larynx is completely relaxed. Furthermore, when you mouth words silently, you are depriving your brain of that crucial auditory feedback loop we just discussed.
Because you can't hear your own mistakes.
Exactly. Your brain cannot compare your pronunciation to the native speakers if it can't hear you. You have to train the mouth to push air out, vibrate the chords, and make specific movements.
It really goes back to that tennis analogy. Mouthing the words on the subway is like sitting on the train visualizing your tennis swing.
Visualization is great, but it doesn't build calluses on your hands.
Right. It doesn't strengthen the tendons. You have to physically swing the heavy racket.
And you don't build calluses in a day, either. The source warns that practicing this list once will yield zero lasting results.
You don't go to the gym, lift a heavy weight one time, and wake up permanently muscular.
Exactly. The myelination process requires sleep, and it requires consistent daily repetition.
So what does this all mean for us today? It means we are going to the gym right now.
Yes, we are.
We're going to look at the 3 tiers of sentences provided in our source material, and we are going to actively practice them together.
We are fully stepping into the coach role here.
So if you are listening to this, I want you to clear your throat. Seriously, do it. Roll your shoulders back, sit up straight.
If you're in the car, roll the windows up so you don't feel self-conscious.
Good tip, because you are going to be speaking out loud with us. Every time we practice a sentence, we will leave a brief pause for you to say it out loud in real time.
And we are starting at the very beginning. Tier 1, the foundation and survival English.
Yes. The source gives us 110 foundational sentences here. These cover daily routines, like waking up, taking a shower, basic social etiquette, asking for directions.
Ordering food, expressing simple feelings. The basics.
Now, I know some intermediate learners might look at sentences like, where's the bathroom? Or I wake up at 7 and think, oh, I already know this. This is beneath me. I'm going to skip ahead to the business negotiations.
Which is a fatal error in language learning. Let's use a musical metaphor instead of tennis for a second.
Okay, I like it.
Skipping these foundational phrases is like sitting down at a piano, refusing to practice your basic major scales, and immediately trying to improvise a complex jazz solo.
It's going to sound awful.
It's going to be a mess. It doesn't matter if you memorize the abstract vocabulary for a corporate merger if you still hesitate for 2 full seconds when someone asks, "How was your weekend?"
Right. These tier 1 phrases must become automatic, thoughtless reflexes.
They need to be pure muscle memory. You shouldn't have to mentally translate "thank you so much" from your native language into
It
English.
should just fall out of your mouth the moment the social situation demands it.
Exactly.
So let's build those scales. We've selected some highly useful everyday phrases from the tier 1 list that are incredibly common, but they're often misunderstood because they rely on idioms or metaphors.
Right. Non-literal meanings.
I'm going to explain the context briefly. I will say the phrase clearly at a normal native speed, and then I am going to pause so you, the listener, can repeat it twice out loud.
Remember our rule. The first time is for accuracy, just getting your mouth around the words. The second time is for fluency, matching the rhythm.
Let's start with a phrase you'll hear every single day in an English-speaking country. The phrase is, I'm running late.
Now, what's fascinating here is the literal versus the figurative meaning. Running obviously implies physical exertion, like jogging down the street.
Right, but why do we use it for time?
Because in English, time is very frequently treated as a physical moving object, and we are in a physical race against it.
Exactly. I'm running late simply means you do not have enough time and you're going to arrive after the scheduled time.
You could be sitting perfectly still in a massive traffic jam, not moving an inch.
And you'd still call your friend and say, I'm running late.
It's about the feeling of time escaping you.
Okay, get ready. I am going to say it, and then I want you to repeat it aloud. Pay attention to how the NG at the end of running flows right into the L of late. Running late. Ready?
You've got this.
I'm running late.
Good. If you stumbled, that's fine. That was your accuracy pass.
Now loosen up your jaw. Let the words blend together into one smooth sound. Ready? I'm running late.
Excellent. Let's look at another one.
Okay.
In English, we use spatial metaphors constantly. Imagine you're in a building, you ask someone, "Where's the bathroom?" And they reply, "It's down the hall."
Now, if you take this literally, you might be really confused. Down implies a lower elevation, right?
Yeah, you might start looking for a staircase to go to the basement.
But in this context, down the hall just means you go straight through the corridor. It doesn't matter if the hallway's perfectly flat, you're still going down it.
Right. It comes from the idea of traveling along a path away from your current center.
Let's shadow this one. Feel the short, punchy rhythm of it. Ready? It's down the hall.
Okay, now let's make it sound like you're casually pointing it out to a friend. Make it smooth.
It's down the hall.
Spot on. Now, this raises a really important point about how native speakers actually communicate.
Which is?
They rarely use perfectly formal textbook language for everyday problems. Let's look at a phrase used when you simply didn't hear what someone said.
Oh, this is a great one.
The textbook might teach you to say, "I beg your pardon. Could you repeat that?"
Yeah.
Or, "I did not hear you." But what native speakers actually say, according to our source, is, "Didn't catch that."
Yes, didn't catch that. Again, we have a physical metaphor here.
There are no baseball gloves involved.
None at all. You aren't physically catching an object flying through the air. Catching in this context is what linguists call a conduit metaphor.
We treat words as physical objects that are thrown from the speaker to the listener.
Exactly. And if you catch them, you understand them. Notice that we drop the word I. We don't say, "I didn't catch that." Casual English drops the subject when the context is obvious.
And pay close attention to the word didn't. Native speakers rarely say did not, and they barely pronounce the T at the end of didn't.
Yeah, it gets trapped in the throat. What's called a glottal stop. It sounds more like didn't catch that.
Let's try it. Don't overpronounce the T. Ready?
Didn't catch that.
That's the accuracy pass. Now give it a slightly apologetic tone. You're sorry you missed what they said.
Smooth it out. Didn't catch that.
That glottal stop is a perfect example of why shadowing is so vital. A textbook will never teach you to swallow that T sound.
Never. But shadowing trains your vocal cords to do it naturally. Let's do another one from the foundation tier.
Okay.
Let's say you're listening to music, or the heater is blasting and it's too intense. The phrase from our source is, turn it down.
Now, turning something down has a couple of meanings. It can mean rejecting an offer, like turning down a job or a date.
But when referring to music, television, or heat, it means to lower the intensity or volume.
Think of an old vintage radio dial that you physically turn in a downward motion.
Exactly. It's a phrasal verb, and the stress usually lands on the word down. Let's shadow this imperative request. Imagine the TV is blasting, and you just want peace and quiet. Ready? Turn it down.
Okay, now feel how the N, in turn, links directly to the I in it. Turn it.
Say it as one word. Ready? Turn it down.
Let's do one more for the survival tier. This one is about physical state.
Oh, I say this one all the time.
After a really long day at work, a native speaker rarely says, "I am exceedingly exhausted." They say, "I'm beat."
I'm beat. Again, a visceral physical metaphor. You haven't literally been beaten up, but your muscles feel like you have.
It's a fantastic, incredibly common colloquialism. The T at the end of beat is very sharp and sudden. Try it.
I'm beat.
Add a little bit of exhaustion to your voice this time. Drop your shoulders.
I'm beat.
What's brilliant about mastering these Tier 1 sentences is that they aren't just isolated random phrases.
Right, they connect.
When you practice them, you're actually learning how they string together to form survival micro-conversations.
Exactly. If you look at the food section of the Tier 1 list, you see how natural interactions are built from these exact blocks.
Someone asks, "What's for lunch?"
You reply, "I want pizza today." You take a bite and you say, "This tastes really good." And when you are completely finished, you say, "I'm stuffed."
If you have these sentences locked in your muscle memory, if they're sickly myelinated, you can navigate an entire lunch outing without ever having to panic.
You don't have to manually search your brain for vocabulary. You're just pulling pre-assembled building blocks right off the mental shelf.
And once you have that basic repertoire down, once you can play your basic piano scales without looking at your hands, you're ready to start playing the actual music.
So we've mapped out how to survive a morning commute and order a coffee, but the moment you walk into an office or a social gathering, that blunt, direct survival English is going to sound incredibly rude.
It really is.
Yeah.
So how does the source transition us into the politeness of corporate culture?
That brings us to Tier 2, intermediate nuance and workplace flow.
This is where we graduate from basic survival to actually interacting as a complex social being.
Yes. Tier 2 contains 110 sentences that introduce compound structures, tricky verb tenses, and crucially, polite modal verbs.
This is the language of making plans, navigating the workplace, and executing the intricate dance of social etiquette.
The politeness dance, I love that. In English, directness can sometimes be perceived as aggressive.
Oh, highly aggressive. If a boss says, "We must leave now," it sounds like a military order.
Right. Native speakers constantly soften their language using modal verbs and modifiers to preserve social harmony. We blur the edges.
Let's look at a prime example from the source. We should probably leave before rush hour.
Let's unpack the mechanics of this one. Should probably is an absolute masterpiece of polite English negotiation.
It really is. Should is a suggestion, not a direct command like must. Adding probably softens it even further.
It leaves room for the other person to disagree without causing offense. It's deferential. And then we have the idiom rush hour.
Which is deeply paradoxical if you pause and think about it.
Why?
Because during rush hour, nobody is actually rushing anywhere.
Oh, that's so true.
Rush hour refers to the specific times of day, usually the morning and evening commutes, when traffic is at its absolute heaviest and slowest. It's a traffic jam.
That's hilarious. I never thought about that. So the phrase combines polite social navigation with a crucial piece of daily vocabulary.
Let's shadow this one. It's a bit longer, so focus on taking a good breath first.
That is?
How should and probably blur together. Should, probably.
Okay, listen closely and then repeat. We should probably leave before rush hour.
Good. That was the accuracy pass. Now let's smooth it out. Don't pronounce the D in should too hard. Flow right through it.
Ready. We should probably leave before rush hour.
Excellent. Now let's apply this intermediate nuance to making actual social plans. The source provides a fantastic micro-conversation here.
It perfectly encapsulates how native speakers arrange their evenings. It goes like this. Person A asks, "What are you doing tonight?" Person B replies, "I'm staying home." Person A follows up with the invitation, "Do you want to come?"
Notice the tense here. What are you doing tonight? This is the present continuous tense, but is being used to talk about the future.
This is a classic native speaker habit.
It's so much more natural than the robotic textbook way of saying, "What will you do tonight?" Or, "Would you care to accompany me this evening?"
No one says that. Let's practice that initial question. Give it an upbeat, curious melody. Your pitch goes up at the end. Ready? What are you doing tonight?
Make it conversational, like you're talking to a friend over a cubicle wall.
What are you doing tonight?
And that leads us seamlessly into the specific workplace vocabulary in Tier 2. The workplace requires a delicate balance.
You have to convey urgency, but maintain total professionalism.
Look at this sentence from the source. The deadline is coming up really fast.
The phrasal verb coming up is doing all the heavy lifting here. We don't say the deadline is approaching rapidly. We say it's coming up.
It gives a sense of physical proximity, like an object moving toward you on a conveyor belt.
It creates a shared sense of urgency without sounding panicked. Let's shadow it. Put a little stress on the word fast. Ready? The deadline is coming up really fast.
Second pass for fluency. Feel the urgency.
The deadline is coming up really fast.
Now let's look at another workplace staple from the source, and this one has some notoriously tricky grammar. I've been working on this project for weeks.
The present perfect continuous tense.
Yes, I have been working. This tense is so difficult for learners because it describes an action that started in the past and is still continuing right now.
But here is why shadowing is brilliant. It completely bypasses the grammar rules.
Exactly. By repeating the whole phrase aloud, you internalize the physical rhythm of it without having to conjugate verbs in your head.
You learn that I've been naturally contracts and gets unstressed, while the words working, project, and weeks carry the heavy beats of the sentence.
It's all about the stress timing in English. English isn't a syllable-timed language like Spanish or Japanese. It's stress-timed.
The important words get the beat, and the little grammar words get squished between them, so it goes da-da, dee-num-da, on this dum-da for diem. I've been working on this project for weeks.
Let's try that. Let your body feel the rhythm. Tap your hand on your leg on the stressed words if it helps.
I've been working on this project for weeks.
Again, hit those stress words hard, squish the others.
I've been working on this project for weeks.
Now, I want to look at a phrase that I find absolutely fascinating from a cultural and psychological standpoint.
Which one?
The host of the source material specifically highlights this one. I can't seem to figure this out. Or simply the verb phrase, figure out.
Oh, it is everywhere.
Why is this so incredibly ubiquitous in American and British English problem solving?
It means to solve a problem or to understand something confusing. But why don't we just use the dictionary words? Why don't we just say solve or understand?
Right, why not?
I think it's because figure out implies a tangible process. It implies puzzling over something, looking at the different figures or variables, and arriving at a conclusion. It's collaborative.
Think about the psychology here. If you walk up to a coworker and say, "I don't understand this report," it sounds like a personal intellectual failure.
You are lacking.
But if you say, "I can't figure this out," It frames the problem as an external puzzle that needs solving.
Oh, that's brilliant. It's the puzzle's fault for being tricky, not yours for being dumb.
That is exactly it. It's a subtle shift in framing that preserves your ego and maintains workplace harmony.
So let's practice this vital phrase. Pay attention to how the words figure and out link together. The R in figure slides right into the O in out. Figure out.
Ready?
I can't seem to figure this out.
Make it sound a little frustrated, a little puzzled. Fluency pass.
I can't seem to figure this out.
Before we move out of Tier 2, let's do a rapid-fire vocabulary highlight practice.
These are intermediate phrasal verbs from the source that instantly make you sound more native and fluent.
I will explain the meaning, and you lead the shadowing. First phrase, reminds me of. This means something triggers a memory or has similarities to something else.
Notice how the S on reminds connects to the M in me. Reminds me. Listen and repeat. She reminds me of someone.
Again, smooth it out.
She reminds me of someone.
Next phrase, worth trying out. This means it is highly recommended to experience or test something, usually a new restaurant or a new idea.
Here we go. Emphasize worth. That restaurant is worth trying out.
Let's do it again.
That restaurant is worth trying out.
And finally, looking forward to. This is the ultimate, indispensable, polite sign-off in English.
You will use this in almost every professional email you write. It means anticipating a future event with pleasure.
Ready?
I'm looking forward to the weekend.
One more time, with a little excitement.
I'm looking forward to the weekend.
Excellent work. So if Tier 1 was surviving your basic needs, and Tier 2 was navigating the social and professional politeness dance,
Tier 3 is about taking charge. We are now entering the realm of advanced professional and abstract reasoning.
this is the final stretch of the marathon. Tier 3 contains the last 110 sentences. It covers making big decisions, navigating nuanced critiques, and using the high-level language of leadership.
And look, I know this sounds intimidating. As you're listening to this, you might feel a spike of anxiety.
But even the source material takes a moment to reassure the learner here. It explicitly encourages learners not to give up or be intimidated.
Yes, it feels difficult. As one of the sentences in this tier says, this situation is getting complicated. But there is a brilliant pedagogical tactic at play in this final section to help you manage it.
Yes, the source uses a strategy I call simplified complexity. The underlying concepts in this tier are highly advanced. We're talking about corporate restructuring, evaluating evidence, mediating conflicts.
Heavy stuff.
But the vocabulary used to express these concepts is remarkably simple, physical, and accessible.
Right. It pairs a complex, abstract idea with a simple, tangible word explanation.
For example, it teaches that to handle a crisis simply means to manage it. You're using your hands to handle it.
Proof just means evidence. Balance means giving equal time to two heavy things on a scale.
It's a massive relief. It means you don't need a PhD in linguistics or a massive thesaurus to negotiate a tough business deal.
You just need to know how to combine simpler physical words effectively. Like the water stations at the end of a marathon, these simplified explanations keep you hydrated and moving forward.
Let's look at one of the most vital, delicate skills in the professional world, the art of the nuanced critique.
This is absolutely crucial for leadership.
If you're in a meeting and someone presents a bad idea, you cannot simply say, that is a bad idea.
It creates immediate defensiveness, it ruins rapport, and it makes you look aggressive.
You have to use what linguists call concessive language. You acknowledge a positive element before introducing the negative critique.
The source provides a perfect textbook example of this. The sentence is, his ideas sounded good, but it was not perfect.
Look at the architecture of that sentence. You start with validation, laying down a cushion. His ideas sounded good.
And then you pivot sharply with the word but, transitioning into the critique. It was not perfect.
It's the classic critique sandwich.
Agreed.
It shows you are listening, it proves you are fair, and it demonstrates that you're analytical.
Let's shadow this one. Pay very close attention to the slight pause at the comma. It's a breath that signals the pivot. Ready. His idea sounded good, but it was not perfect.
Now for the fluency pass. Feel the pivot on the word but. Lean into it.
His idea sounded good, but it was not perfect.
Mastering that structure alone will save you so many headaches in office politics.
Truly. Now let's explore the language of leadership and cause and effect. Leaders don't just describe what is happening in the present moment. They describe why it's happening and what the future impact will be.
Look at this sentence from the source. This decision will affect many people.
Effect. A-F-F-E-C-T. Meaning to impact or to create a change. It's a strong, authoritative word.
It shows you are looking at the big picture and taking responsibility. Let's practice it.
Remember, it's a statement of fact, so speak it with a downward, confident intonation at the end. Don't end it like a question. Ready? This decision will affect many people.
Again, nice and strong. Let your voice drop on people.
This decision will affect many people.
And if you want to describe someone who has that exact kind of foresight and authority, the source gives us this sentence. She has natural leadership skills.
I want to point out the word natural here. It implies they were born with it, that their ability to lead is instinctive rather than forced.
It's one of the highest compliments you can give in an office environment. Let's shadow it. The stress is heavily on the first syllable of natural and leadership.
Natural leadership. Ready, she has natural leadership skills.
Match my cadence.
She has natural leadership skills.
Finally, let's look at a sentence that deals with abstract reasoning and personal management, which is vital for long-term career survival.
I'm trying to balance work and personal life.
The word balance is the key operating mechanism here. Again, we are taking a physical, tangible metaphor, a scale with weights on either side, and applying it to a completely abstract concept like time, stress, and energy.
You are imagining yourself physically holding up both sides to keep them from crashing down. It's the ultimate modern struggle, isn't it?
It really is. I am trying to balance work and personal life. It requires this delicate pronunciation.
Let's try it. Make sure you hit the B in balance clearly. Ready? I am trying to balance work and personal life.
Now for fluency. Connect the thoughts. Express a little bit of that struggle.
I am trying to balance work and personal life.
If you can confidently execute the sentences in Tier 3, you are no longer just speaking English, you are wielding it.
You're using it as a tool to influence outcomes, to manage complex relationships. You are no longer just surviving, you are leading.
But of course, doing this once with us today on this deep dive is not going to rewire your brain permanently. We haven't built that thick layer of myelin yet.
Right. It takes time. And that brings us to the final and perhaps most important phase of our deep dive, designing your daily shadowing routine.
We've practiced across all 3 tiers today. You've felt what it's like to physically engage with the language.
But how do you take this one-time session and turn it into an automated daily habit?
The source material gives a very explicit, almost demanding mandate at the end. Practice these sentences again tomorrow and the day after that.
It's a direct call to action because consistency is the only path to the muscle memory required for true fluency.
But building a daily habit is where most people fail. They fall into the valley of disappointment, where the initial excitement wears off.
And the friction of the daily grind sets in. So let's construct a highly practical, low-friction daily protocol for you based on the source's instructions to make sure you actually do this tomorrow.
Step 1 is the setup. You cannot do this half-heartedly while scrolling on your phone or watching TV. You need a dedicated physical environment.
The source is very clear on this. Find a quiet room where you can talk out loud. Switch off all distractions. Focus completely.
You need to treat this like a daily vocal performance or a physical workout. Shut the bedroom door.
Or, honestly, my absolute favorite place for this, and a lot of learners swear by this, is in the car during a commute.
Oh, that's brilliant.
You're completely alone, the car's practically soundproof, and you can be as loud, as exaggerated, and as awkward as you want without anyone judging you.
Also, get a physical notebook and a pen, as the source suggests, to jot down the specific phrases your mouth repeatedly stumbles over.
Step 2 is the warm-up. Remember our central thesis. We are treating language like a physical sport.
You wouldn't step onto a tennis court and immediately try to serve at maximum speed without stretching your hamstrings and shoulders first.
You shouldn't shadow English without warming up your speech organs. Take 30 to 60 seconds to literally stretch your mouth.
Do some lip trills, like blowing air through your lips like a horse. Brrr!
Exaggerate your vowels. A, E, I, O, U. Stretching your jaw as wide as it goes. Hum a little bit to wake up your vocal cords.
That sounds totally ridiculous, I know.
Yeah.
If someone walked in on you, they'd think you were crazy.
But it makes a massive, noticeable difference in your pronunciation and your vocal stamina. Step 3 is the execution.
You load up the 330 sentences, and you follow the strict 2-pass protocol we discussed earlier.
Listen. Repeat for accuracy, getting the words right. Repeat for fluency, matching the rhythm. And you do not skip around.
Which brings us to step 4, the progression check. The host in the source material is very strict about this rule. Do not skip levels.
Ensure that Tier 1 is Absolutely, unquestionably automatic before you try to lead a boardroom in Tier 3.
If you find yourself stumbling over the R and L in I'm running late, you have no business trying to practice. The complex intonation of this decision will affect many people.
Be brutally honest with yourself about the strength of your foundation. It's about patience.
And there's a deep psychological aspect to this that the source touches on right at the very end.
It leaves the listener with a message of encouragement. Keep practicing, keep improving, and keep believing in yourself.
It's acknowledging the reality that language learning can be deeply frustrating.
You will have days where your tongue feels thick, your brain feels foggy, and you can't seem to make the sounds right. It will feel like you're regressing.
But you have to push through that friction. The friction is the exact point where the learning is happening.
Every single time you stumble, pause, and correct yourself, your brain is laying down another microscopic layer of myelin.
You are actively building the physical, neurological architecture of fluency. And we should briefly mention the role of sleep here, too.
Oh, yes. You practice during the day to create the stimulus, but the actual myelination, the transfer of that motor skill from short-term memory to long-term storage, happens while you sleep.
So consistent practice followed by good sleep is the ultimate formula.
So let's pull all of this together. We started this deep dive with a mission to understand the why and the how of shadowing and to actively practice it together.
What we've discovered is that shadowing isn't just listening. It is a dual-pass, highly demanding physical workout for your mouth and your brain.
We've built from basic survival English, understanding spatial metaphors and expressing exhaustion, all the way up to advanced professional negotiation and making polite, nuanced critiques.
We've moved from playing the basic piano scales to playing the complex melodies, using that crucial motor memory loop. Speaking aloud, hearing your own voice, and self-correcting.
Exactly. It's about getting off the theoretical sidelines and actually swinging the racket. Now, before we go, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to chew on.
Something that builds on everything we've talked about today, but takes it one philosophical step further.
This raises a really profound question about identity. When you do this daily, when you repeatedly practice the exact cadences, the specific polite requests, the subtle hesitations, and the abstract decision-making phrases of a native English speaker, are you just mimicking arbitrary sounds?
Or are you, in a very real way, actively trying on a new personality?
Oh, wow, that's deep.
Think about it. Language dictates how we categorize and interact with the world. English is very direct in some ways, and highly padded with specific politeness protocols in others.
When you adopt the physical rhythm of English, when you start instinctively saying, I should probably, instead of a direct command, or when you psychologically frame a failure externally as, I can't figure this out,
You might subtly change how you interact with people. You might find that the confident, fluent English speaker you are building in your brain actually carries themselves differently.
stands a little differently, negotiates differently than you do in your native language.
You are exploring a different facet of your own identity.
I absolutely love that. You aren't just learning to speak a language, you are learning a new way to be in the world. So as we sign off, I want to thank you for joining us on this incredibly interactive deep dive. We threw a massive amount of technical and practical information at you today, and you stepped up and did the work.
The knowledge is only valuable if it is applied consistently.
Exactly. So don't let this be a passive experience. Your assignment is simple. Go start your first official solo shadowing session right now. Find your quiet room, do your vocal warm-ups, and start laying down that myelin. Start building that muscle memory. Get out there and swing the racket. Until next time.